What's going on, guys? Your realtor Sarb sold it back again, and today I'm going to be talking about something very surprising and very specific that just took place last month in the BC real estate market. Absolutely zero pre-sale projects were launched in the Lower Mainland. Now, why is this a surprise? Well, around this time in years past, you typically see at least a couple of projects come to market, and that's been the standard for most regions in the Lower Mainland. At least every month, you'll see one new pre-sale project launched. But for the first time in a long time, we've had a whole month go by where not a single project was launched. Nothing. Zilch. And you may or may not be wondering why did this happen, what led to it, what's currently going on, and what are developers going to do in the near future here. Well, I'm going to break that down in this video, so let's get right into it. So what led to this? First and foremost, we've all know what's going on in the real estate market for the past couple of years. Things have been relatively slow with the higher interest rates and softer buyer demand. That has trickled onto pre-sales as well, which is usually led by first-time home buyers and investors. Now, what happened in the pre-sale market was less and less buyers were moving towards purchasing a pre-sale unit. A lot of people who bought in 2020 and 2021 who had their completions coming up in 2024 and now 2025 weren't able to complete, and they had to walk away from their deposits. They were losing money. This news then reached traditional buyers that were thinking of picking up a pre-sale in 2023, 2024, and even 2025. They see it as a higher risk. So because of that, less and less of them have gravitated towards pre-sales, leading to softer demand. And when there's softer demand for a product, less of it sells. And obviously, in regards to investors, well, in a environment where there's high interest rates and inventory is not all that great, and they're also hearing news about people not completing on their pre-sale purchases, well, less investors are going to kind of gravitate towards that product as well. So all of that combined has led to less and less pre-sale units being sold in a bunch of different projects over the last several months. And when projects aren't able to sell a certain number of units over a 1 year period, well, then that project essentially gets axed, canceled, because they aren't able to secure building permits, they aren't able to file for their First Amendment to the disclosure, and of course, most importantly, they're not able to get their construction financing. So the whole project just gets axed, and deposits are returned to its buyers, but that's 1 year wasted for the buyers. So with less and less inventory moving now with pre-sales, it comes to a point where developers are kind of holding back. Developers are kind of scared to launch their products because they don't know if they're going to get enough buyers to actually purchase a pre-sale unit in their development. So that's all the things that kind of led the pre-sale market to kind of be where it's at today. And like I said, with less and less buyers buying pre-sales, developers kind of being put onto their heels, now we're seeing a reduction of new launches. And that's what I'm going to dive into next. So when it comes to pre-sales and development for that matter, what a lot of people don't realize is that these developers actually talk to one another. They network with each other. They ask each other when they're going to launch the products, when it makes sense to launch theirs, just so there's not two of the same type of product being launched in the same area, and then they'd be stealing sales from one another. A better way to look at it is that they want to see the potential outcome for their product by seeing what the other person does first. Sometimes developers, they don't want to be the first ones to do it. Other times developers are like, okay, we'll launch now if you guys are launching next year, and let's see how sales go. Let's see what demand is like. Every pre-sale product that has launched in 2024 and in 2025 has had trouble selling a select number of units. Typically, you want to sell between 60 to 70% in order to secure construction financing and get your building permits, and you have about a year to do that. Now, a lot of pre-sales haven't been able to reach that point. And so with other developers seeing some projects not being able to reach that point, they're deciding to just pause. They're deciding to convert to purpose-built rentals because they don't need to secure construction financing, and at the same time they get a bunch of grants and tax benefits to do so by the government, or they're just deciding to shelve the project. They're like, we'll just keep waiting. It's okay. We'll just hold the land, and then maybe in a year or two, we'll start and launch this project when demand actually picks up. With everything that's taken place in the market over the past 3 years, developers have been slowly hitting the pause button on their projects. Construction costs are still high. Interest rates have not come down as far as we thought they'd come down. Now, on top of that, buyer demand is still relatively soft, and that could continue on into the future here. If the numbers don't make sense, developers won't build. Now, what is this going to lead to for the near future and going into 2026? Just because developers aren't building or they're pausing projects or they're delaying their launches doesn't mean they're just sitting back and doing nothing. Here's what developers will likely do going into the future and what they've already started doing over the past several months. First and foremost, like I mentioned, yes, delays. They're just going to delay their launch. They're waiting to see if buyer demand picks up. They're waiting to see what happens with the interest rates, what Trump decides to do with the tariffs, all this economic uncertainty. People are on their heels waiting to see what happens. At the end of the day, they can keep delaying, and keep delaying until they see an advantageous point for them to actually launch their product once they see buyer demand come up, even a little bit, or some optimism come into the market. Two, this is what we've seen a lot of projects do, and that's because they're getting a lot of grants and tax benefits to do so, and they're making it easier for developers to build this, is they're just converting some of the projects and even some of the units in certain projects that have been selling in the pre-sale phase to purpose-built rentals. So more rental units are going to hit the market in the near future, and this is going to flood the market with rentals. But hey, at the end of the day, the developer, they'll still be able to make some money off it. They won't be able to make as much money as if they, built and sold the units, but getting cash flow from rentals is better than nothing. So they're converting some of those to still build out their projects. And lastly, developer held inventory. So for past projects that have launches, they've actually stopped sales at this point. They've shut down the project, even though they've sold 50 to 60%, maybe a little bit more than that. And now in the future, when demand picks up, they're going to release that certain inventory in this project that actually started sales a year or 2 years ago, but then stopped. And they're going to release it as essentially a new opportunity to new buyers without those buyers suspecting what the original purchasers actually paid. So these are the three different outcomes we could see coming into the near future here for pre-sales. At the end of the day, there's going to be a tightening of supply, which is going to be essentially controlled. And what it could lead to in the future once demand picks up is, again, less options for buyers, demand picks up, and what does developer want to see? Price increases. They're able to sell their product for more. For first-time buyers, downsizers, investors, here are the two key takeaways that I want you to take away from this video. Here's essentially what's going to happen for you. One, short term, less choices right off the bat. If you're waiting for shiny new inventory to hit the market at even lower prices because developers are hurting, keep dreaming. That's likely not going to happen. Now, what you're going to have to do is, because there's short-term supply constraint, is you're going to have to look at projects that have already launched, projects that have been selling for the past few months, because developers are waiting for that inventory to be eaten up. That's where your opportunity is going to lie for the short term. Long term, as I mentioned, with less and less supply coming to the market, eventually demand will turn around. Eventually there'll be more optimism in the market, and eventually you're going to be looking, whether it's not 3 months from now, 6 months from now, maybe a year, year and a half, 2 years from now, you're going to be looking for a new pre-sale, and there's not going to be that many new options available. So ideally, what you want to do is, if you can get a good deal today in a good quality project by a good developer in a good location, you should try and take advantage of it now instead of waiting for the next best thing, because the next best thing may not arrive. That's essentially all I wanted to talk about this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it insightful. And for all things pre-sales, and of course resales as well, in the BC real estate market, more specifically the Fraser Valley, make sure you hit that follow button. Please subscribe, like, leave a comment. It helps out the channel. And of course, if you have any questions, you can just leave a comment, or you can reach out to me directly. Happy to be of assistance. Have a good day, guys.